Hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of No Free Lunch, Economics for a Fallen World. Professor Guernsey and Professor Heyman here. We're talking about some of the concepts in Chapter 17, history of macroeconomics, if you will. And Dean Heyman, you talk in the chapter about Say's Law. What is it and why is it important?
Well, Say's Law it became very important because of its being used as in really a straw man fashion by John Maynard Keynes as the foil with which he introduced what was subsequently called the new economics in the aftermath of the Great Depression. So Say's Law, let me take it back. Say himself never called it Say's Law. Say did not think he had a law. Say thought, I'm simply writing what Adam Smith and everybody has always thought. And what Say basically said is that, and if you think about it, production necessarily precedes consumption. For you to consume today, you have to produce previously. And if you're a farmer, it's pretty obvious. If you go out and sow the seed and you do the work through the summer, then you get to eat afterwards. So what Say would ultimately say, and the way I say in the book would be the fairest way to kind of summarize Say's Law is that to supply or to produce provides the resources with which you get the potential purchasing power to demand. So if you produce, you will have something with which you may trade with others to consume what they have. That's kind of the essence of Say's Law. Just as a historical standpoint, Say himself, it was in his first work, spread all over the place, and a guy named James Mill, kind of in his Commerce Defended in 1807 or 8, restated Say's Law in a much better fashion, and that's when it became known as Say's Law. But he's sometimes listed as the co-creditor. But again, that's what all the classical economists believe, because it seemed prima facie just self-evident to you if you thought about it. Hey, if you produce something, you have the ability to then consume because you'll have something to trade.
So it gets caricatured as, supply creates its own demand. That goes too far, I assume.
Absolutely. That's what John Maynard Keynes said it meant. And so in Keynes's view, the classical economists said, if you have supply, you necessarily have demand. And at some level, that is true. But the interesting thing why that gets disconnected is time. We all go out to produce. I get up in the morning to go to work. So not just to earn money, but I certainly want to earn some money so I can consume. Every one of us produces so that we may consume. But not every one of us necessarily gets a paycheck today and plans to spend it all in the next pay period. There can be a separation from the time with which you produce and when you consume. And that's what causes all these problems, of which the classical economists were all well aware of. No one denied the idea that there would be depression. They call it all recessions, what we would call today recessions. They called them depressions in the 1800s. And it was self-evident that, there are periods of slack time when money was scarce. Everybody wanted to sell and nobody wanted to buy. And so they wrestled with these kinds of things, but they would assert that, hey, there were financial panics that would lead to this and so forth. So that's kind of the basis. We'll get into maybe some of the other questions in a later video, or maybe you ask this video. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think we'll stop there and we'll come back and we'll talk about some other implications within the field of macroeconomics. We're delighted you joined us today. Thank you. Talk to you next time.